Welcome to Latte with a Lawyer, a podcast dedicated to bringing you the stories of some of America's most successful lawyers, figuring out what makes them tick, how they creatively solve problems, and how others aspiring to be them can follow in their footsteps.
Okay, good afternoon, folks, although it's probably, well, it's noontime where you are too. Welcome to another episode of Latte with a Lawyer. I'm Jonathan Brickman, and today we have with us Leora Maccabee from the firm Maslon in Minneapolis. Is that right?
Yes, you got it. Thanks.
Good.
Nice to be here. Appreciate it.
Welcome to the show. And I know it's midday there, but we have to keep with these theme of the show, Latte with a Lawyer. What is your favorite morning beverage to get started?
I need a coffee, just like black, from my boring old coffee pot before I do anything. Literally before I shower or do anything, take care of my kids, go to work. But I will say this morning I was slow enough that my favorite new coffee shop that just opened up in our neighborhood, which opens at 9. I was slow enough this morning that I was able to make it there. So I did have a latte this morning, and that was a real treat. So
in honor of this conversation, I'm sure, right?
Right, exactly. So an iced latte to start the day.
Excellent, good. Yeah, no, I just drink drip coffee, whatever I get at the grocery store, unless I'm up. So, well, yeah, latte is kind of like it's symbolic, and it's it's a metaphor, I suppose. But anyway, are you guys going to the office? Are you back to the office?
So our firm is a hybrid setup. So they're asking people to be there around 3 days a week if they can, but I think that's pretty tricky these days. I actually, even before COVID, was working remotely at a local co-op that's run. It's a woman run. It's very progressive in the Twin Cities area. It's called Modern Well. And so I was here full time. And I'm here right now. I'm in a podcast room here.
Oh.
So I work here about 30% to 50% of the time. And then the rest of the week, I'm in our downtown Minneapolis legal office. So I get to meet with entrepreneurs and creatives in the co-op space in a little more of an informal environment. My favorite kinds of people. I don't, as a lawyer, I like lawyers who work in businesses because they're working on, exciting things in our community and making, change and develop interesting products. And I like entrepreneurs. I'm not a huge fan of just hanging around with law firm attorneys all day. So I try to be out in the world as much as possible, and being in this co-op space is a big part of that.
So is it like a WeWork kind of setup?
I'd say someone actually asked me that today. It's like a WeWork, except I think it's a little more community building. So it's a little more, like I describe it, if you went to Starbucks and you worked on your laptop and someone had an interesting phone call, you couldn't be like, hey, what was the thing that you were saying? Can I go to that? But here, if someone's talking about an event or a business partnership, you can just jump in and say, I'd love to learn more about that in a way that you can't really in other spaces.
Oh,
so it's a little bit
cool.
more. Yeah, a little more friendly than I think the average co-working space. So.
And it's just local to Minneapolis?
Yes, it's interesting. There are two very progressive co-ops here, like of this sort of community building type. Modern Well, which just has one office. There's another one actually called the Coven that has 2 offices here. And I just learned that they're going to start doing franchising opportunities in other communities. So it's definitely, I'm sure there are these in other communities too, but sort of more of that being a part of a community while you're doing the work that you're doing for your job.
Yeah, well, I think that trend is definitely it's expanding, right? With the sort of the lack of separation between home and work, right? People are working remotely. They don't want to go to the city. So I think that will continue to perpetuate and expand.
Yeah. There was a Forbes article to that effect, I think, only a few weeks ago. People don't necessarily want to be at home where they get stuck doing their laundry or cleaning their house because they get distracted, but they don't want to schlep all the way into their downtown business anymore. So these suburban-esque co-ops tend to be a nice middle space for that.
Yeah. Well, listen, that's why suburbia started anyway, right? People didn't want to get out of the city. They want to be closer to home. So we're kind of going backwards a little bit with this, right? And now it's going to be this, I mean, you said hybrid. It is like a hybrid approach where we're blending the best of both worlds, right? But still close to home.
Right. And I think it's nice if I have, client confidential calls or anything where I need, confidential space, there are private rooms here that I can use and do use regularly for that. But I do think it's an interesting model for the legal world to look at, right? As our leases start coming due on these downtown office spaces, is figuring out what do lawyers need, what do legal staff need, and it isn't what they needed 20 years ago.
Right. Yeah, no, it is interesting. I mean, listen, I believe that people who are social animals, right? People don't want to just work in their little cubbyhole by themselves. They want to be together with other people. So I don't think the office concept's going away. People are going to still lease office space. It's just going to be different. The space is going to be different, right? There's going to be little pods, collaboration spaces. It's not going to be sitting in an office by yourself. It's just, right? It's going to be different.
Yeah, exactly.
So, so, okay, that's interesting about, you don't want to hang out with a bunch of lawyers, but your clients aren't lawyers, right? So you're hanging out with those people all the time.
Right. So I have a mix. I mean, I'd say that my clients are either lawyers who are in-house at companies, and I'm not criticizing them, right? That's
I understand.
Because a lot of what they're doing is working on the business and moving the business forward. So those tend to be clients or entrepreneurs, people who are, I'm in the litigation side, right? So in terms of the litigation work that I do, sometimes it's individual owners or officers of a business where there's some sort of business dispute. Or it's a company that's having challenges with a licensing body, and so it's representing the company or the company's employees in that space. It's product liability litigation where you're dealing with a team of people working on challenges with the product or alleged challenges with the product. So I'm a generalist, so it could be any of those or others as well. So the clients definitely vary, but often it is lawyers who are in-house or business owners in-house.
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask you what kind of law you practice. So you are doing business litigation, and you're on the defense side, is right? Yeah.
Yeah. So primarily, it's representing a business when they're being sued. Sometimes, though, if a business notices that another company is trying to steal their information or
IP,
or IP, right? Then you would be on the plaintiff side. So I think IP is probably the one area where, in my practice, I've been on the plaintiff side.
Okay, interesting. How big is the law firm? I don't know the firm.
Yeah, so Maslon is a regional law firm, so it's just based in Minneapolis. It's probably why you don't know it.
Yep.
But it's a really well-regarded firm in this space. So it has 80 or so attorneys.
Okay.
I'd say about half of us are on the litigation side and half are on the corporate side. So whenever attorneys from other states have a case that might have been filed in Minnesota, right, someone hurt by a product here or alleged problems that way, then, we often will represent the business in our courts in Minnesota, but also there are, of course, a fair number of businesses that are based here that we have as clients as well. And the nice thing about, I think, having a firm where half of the firm is sort of corporate transactions, trust and estates, financial services, and half in litigation is that if it's a one kind of an economy, if it's a recession, some of your attorneys are employed really, 100%. And if it's a really thriving economy, then other attorneys are, and sort of it balances itself out. So it's been a great place to be.
Okay. Yeah. First of all, on a personal, I like Minneapolis a lot. I used to travel there for business. I was in the financial services space, so we had clients in Minneapolis. And I've talked to a handful of attorneys from Minneapolis on this podcast too.
That's great.
So I'm familiar with Minneapolis. In fact, you may know this. You may know who this person is when I mention him. My nephew was a weather person in Minneapolis, Matt Brickman. Do you know that name?
Dang it. No, but it's funny. My family is obsessed with the weather. Like my kids.
How can you not know him? I mean, he was like a mini celebrity there. Seriously, I watched this stuff. It's like, whoa, look at this kid.
That's great.
If you Google him, I forget I don't know, it was one of the major networks. Now he's in New York City at 30 Rockefeller
Oh, cool.
in a big market, but he was in Minneapolis for quite some time
That's awesome.
doing the weather. So and if you're obsessed with the weather, I bet they know who he is.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure.
So okay, interesting. So tell me, how did you become a lawyer? What was that journey like to get where you are?
Yeah, I think that most attorneys go into legal practice because they want to improve the world in some way, right? Whether it's from a sort of a social justice mindset and trying to even the playing field, or it's because they want to support and strengthen businesses in their community and see legal skills as a tool to get there. I think for me, it was a little bit of both,
Yeah.
which is why it's nice. I still have a very strong pro bono practice in terms of helping. There's a great organization here, the Volunteer Lawyers Network, from which I get mostly divorce cases where I represent low-income women in their divorces, or child custody disputes and things like that. So I think a lot of attorneys sort of come in with both of those passions, and I definitely did. So, and I went to, we discussed before we went live, I went to Northeastern University School of Law in Boston, which marries those two. It's both a very social justice kind of law school. That's a big part of it, but it's also very practical, business oriented.
Yeah, that's right.
They send their students into, companies to sort of get a taste of what those environments are like. So I definitely had a great legal experience that way as well.
So first of all, I didn't know that it was social justice oriented Northeastern. Obviously, I know
Yeah.
it's practical. So did you also have a co-op program as part of that?
Yeah, so the law school has a co-op program. I knew I was coming back to Minnesota, so I did all my co-ops in Minnesota. One for the
nice.
firm that I'm now at, one for a federal judge, one for the ACLU of Minnesota, which is a great organization here, and then one for the U.S. Attorney's Office here. So.
Oh, nice. How'd you pick Northeastern? Or did it pick you?
Well, yeah, right. I was already out in Boston, working, and I didn't really want to leave, right? I mean, we mentioned that you're from Boston. I think it's one of those places where I wanted to stay in school and stay working there as long as I could.
Right.
So I don't think I moved my horizons far beyond sort of New England. But I did like the practical focus. I do think, I know one of the questions that you had given me before our call is sort of what would you recommend to someone interested in the legal world. I think being the practical program that the law school has is really good for sort of getting a taste of what does it actually look like and mean to be a lawyer. And my sense is that the more that you can get a sense of that before you go to law school or during law school, the better, so that you don't end up, becoming a lawyer and then being unhappy where you're at.
Right. So, and you went to undergrad at Amherst, which I imagine is a very different kind of school, right? Much more theoretical, maybe a little more, right? Less practical than Northeastern.
Yeah,
Is that true?
yeah. In fact, and I still loved my undergraduate experience, but there are no practical courses, right? There's no communications or marketing, no no business courses. There's nothing like that. It's all about sort of expanding your mind and learning for learning's sake, which there's a value in that for sure. But it's definitely sort of a unique kind of program that way.
What'd you study there? What was your?
Well, I made up my own major because I was, a sort of hippie, crunchy young person. So my major was political and economic justice. So they let me sort of make it up and pull things from different majors and different departments to sort of create my own.
They let you create your own. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. The loose curriculum. So I was going to guess either political science, sociology, right? I mean, all those. My daughter goes to Skidmore College, so it's a similar kind of.
Right.
place.
I think a lot of my courses were in either in the political science or the sociology department. So a few others in other departments, but I think that was probably the base of it. So.
Got it. Interesting. Yeah, that's a good school. Actually, my niece, who was a really good swimmer, almost went there to swim.
Oh yeah.
She ended up
that
going.
feels like a lifetime ago, though, Jonathan. I feel like
you're young. I mean, I see dark hair. You look pretty young to me. It couldn't have been that long ago.
It's funny. I will say I am seeing this weekend my best friend from freshman year at college is coming to visit with her family, and The school paired us together as freshmen, and they did a good job, obviously, because we're
Oh,
still
nice.
friends 20 years later. So
Wow, that's terrific.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully you come out of there with some friends. I mean, that's good.
Right.
I mean, 4 years of madness. I mean, you got to come out with some friends.
Exactly. Something, right?
Yeah. Something. So anyway, so so again, just to expand on that, like again, someone going to law school, besides practical experience, I mean, what would you tell them if they were thinking about it?
Well, I think a big part, one of the reasons I should add that I decided to go to law school, when I was in undergrad, I interned for the New York City Department of Homeless Services. And while I was there, which actually I did not really like that internship that much.
Oh, really?
But I was passionate about helping the homeless. So when I was interning for the department, I interviewed not for a job, but just to learn more about them with as many people who were working in the area of homelessness as I could. So I went all over the city, met with heads of nonprofits. They were kind enough to give me their time. And one of the things that kept on coming up in that space was, yeah, I have a master's in social work. Yes, I have this degree, but I wish I had a law degree. If I had a law degree, I could do so much more. And this is what I could do. Right. So if a young person knows something that they're passionate about, then talking to the people who are at the top of that field, right? If they want to do business, talking to business people and saying, what degree did you get, or what did you wish you got, right? What background would be helpful? And I kept on hearing that a law degree would be helpful. Now, I have not gone into homeless services work. That's not where I ended up. But I still think that it was a valuable process. And I think that the lesson is true, that even if you don't end up practicing law, a legal degree is a very helpful degree in business and a lot of other fields as well.
No question about it. I agree. So what do you think makes a good lawyer? What makes someone successful?
I think there's two bits of that, right? I think that there's the people skills, and then there's the actual sort of legal research and writing skills. And I think to be a great lawyer, you need to have both. Because the people skills are the listening to your clients and sort of from hearing them tell the story, understanding what are the legal issues, what do they want you to accomplish, and then being able to analyze and determine what you can do for them. It also comes into play when you're talking to judges. I mean, I'd say as a litigator, right? If you're not listening, the judge is going to ask you questions, right? The judge is going to say what they need, and you need to be able to listen and engage with them. So that's the sort of people skills of a certain amount of compassion, a certain amount of open-mindedness to both your clients, but also even the opposing side and opposing counsel, and of course, whoever is your fact finder, the judge or jury in that case. I'd say the other piece of it is the actual legal skills, because there is a body of law that you're working with, whether it is statutes or rules or case law, or that those are sort of the biggest ones that really you're going to need to analyze those and understand them, and then take sort of that raw substance and then filter it through your case and advocate based upon that. So that definitely takes that sort of attention to detail and analysis skills that you develop to a certain extent in both college, if you go to a good school, as well as in law school. So I think that a good lawyer has both of those skill sets.
I just came back from a few days in Los Angeles at a Trial Lawyers University event. I don't know if you've heard of that, TLU University. It's mainly for plaintiff lawyers, but I mean, where you're getting real practical skills. It's really a terrific program. They just created it like it was a way for these professionals to take time out of their schedule, collaborate, teach each other best practices, right? I mean, it seems, again, it's kind of with that co-op program thinking. I mean, there's nothing like actually like learning from people in the field, right? What they do, tricks of the trade, tactics, how to go through voir dire, what to do, what not to do. I mean, it's very interesting. As someone who's not an attorney listening, there's so much strategy and, skills that you have to learn to be effective, right? You can't just wing it. So how do you get those skills? I mean, you're a litigator. I mean, how do you get those litigation skills?
Well, I think at each stage in a lawyer or even law student's game, right, there are opportunities to get the skills that you need. Initially, just in law school, I mean, I think that a lot of law students focus on, oh, I need to take this class, right? I need to take whether it's constitutional law
Yeah.
or corporate law or health law. But the thing is, the actual law is going to change, right? Over the years,
Right.
the cases change, they're tweaked. I mean, there's some things that are, always going to have the core, but you're always going to go on to whatever your sort of legal, your Westlaw and update the case law. So you don't really need to cram all this information into your brain about, a certain area of law. What's more important when you're in law school is to take those practical courses, right? The clinics where you can represent a housing court, someone in housing court, or a criminal trial practice clinic where you're doing mock interviews and mock depositions and things like that. And those kind of opportunities, I think, more law students need to focus on more, and schools need to emphasize more. And obviously, Northeastern had a lot of that, but every school has some type of clinical opportunities. So I feel like at that first stage, that's the best way to get at those skills. Once you're an attorney and practicing, finding a law firm like Maslon, I feel like is an amazing opportunity because I have, 80 or so other attorneys to work with and learn from. Some people who start out, whether it's solo or they're starting a small firm, they might not have that mentorship and guidance. So I'd encourage attorneys to, even just to the beginning of your practice, surround yourself with other lawyers who can, coach you, who can check in with you, who you can say, okay, this is how I did it. Did I do a good job? And tell me how I can improve upon that. So you don't need to be at a, 1,000 attorney firm. You can be at an 80 or 200 person firm and be at a place that gives you that kind of feedback. So, and the other piece is, like you said, CLU, any kinds of practical courses, whether it's just a basic CLE, or I know my firm has, sent me to a trial practice clinic when I was a young attorney, and being able to find opportunities like that are really great as you're growing in your practice.
Got it. Yeah, CLEs, you got to have CLEs, right? I mean, that's ongoing.
Yes, yeah. Otherwise you lose your license. So that's the thing, is that there are a million different ones to take, but if you take ones where you're actually going to learn something, right, that's valuable, then that's an opportunity too.
Yeah. So do you do jury trials? You go into the courtroom?
I think one of the hard things about legal practice these days is that very, very few cases make it to trial anymore. And I think a lot of it is just, it's so expensive. Like, I talked to the attorneys who are much more senior at my firm, and they said, when they started, if you had a dispute that was, over $20,000, it only cost $5,000 to go to trial. So as a cost benefit, you'd go ahead and you'd fight it, you'd bring it to trial and see how it went down. These days, it's so expensive to go to trial, so almost no one does. So I've had some trial work, some evidentiary work in my pro bono cases, but all the sort of billable clients, the paid clients, those cases tend to resolve at some point along the process, right? They might make it all the way up until the end, but it's very rare that people want to both spend the money and sort of deal with the risk of going in front of a judge or jury in a trial setting and sort of see which way the wind blows at that point.
Yeah, but I mean, you're preparing in the event that you may have to go to trial, right? You're getting right up to the brink of it. So you're working, assuming that it may go to trial.
Exactly. Even in fact, a good attorney from the very beginning, when the client says, here's my problem, help me solve it, right? Here's the person who stole my information, or the business deal that went wrong. Ideally, you're thinking from the very beginning, what information do I need to help set me up if this gets all the way to trial? Even if, right, the overwhelming odds are that you will never make it there. You want to make sure that the kind of research that you're doing for your clients from the very beginning is preparing you for that possibility.
Yeah. So you have, aside from pro bono, have you had a chance to go and do a jury trial?
I haven't. No. I know it really is too bad. There's a criminal case that some attorneys at my firm are working on pro bono, and I'm hopefully going to be able to join them with that jury trial this fall. But no, it really is pretty rare. So, I mean, I've been practicing 14 years and haven't had a jury trial in a paid case. So, so I think that's one of the huge values. I think, to go back to your earlier question, is, how can you, as an attorney, develop your skills? It really is pro bono, because you'll be able to. Those cases tend to go to court and to trial more, I think, than the average sort of billable case will do.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, it seems to me that if you're going to be a lawyer, like, that's the fun part, right? You want to go, like, get Perry Mason, get in front of the trial, get in front of the jury, right?
I will say that the sort of the second best, right, or second and third best, is that anytime you're advocating in front of a judge, right? So you have a motion hearing. I have a motion hearing coming up later this month. You're still, it's not a whole long trial. It's really an hour,
right?
But you can still advocate your case, advocate your position in front of a judge. I'd say that's almost as good, right? The other piece is in a deposition, where you have an opportunity to gather the story from a witness, whether it's the plaintiff or a doctor or some sort of fact witness, and to ask those kind of questions that can help you pull out stories. So I have a lot of, I really enjoy both of those opportunities, the advocating piece, but also that storytelling and story analysis piece of deposition. So I tend to do a lot more of those than sort of actual trial.
Got it. Well, it sounds like you got a little bit of entrepreneurial spirit in you. I mean, you may end up general counsel or something for one of these clients at some point. And you can't say that. You can't say it, man.
I will say I'm very lucky to be at the firm I'm at. I absolutely love it. I would never be at a different firm. But there are some incredible businesses that are doing work out in the community. And, it is interesting to think about working for one of those companies one day. I will say the benefit of working at my law firm is that I can be talking to 100 different businesses and finding out what their legal needs are, and then plugging them in with those of my peers, or if we don't do the work, then people, lawyers I know in the community, to help them further the legal goals. So there's definitely a certain amount of access that you can get working for a law firm, and with wonderful colleagues that you can refer for all those legal needs. So I do love where I am, and I love that ability to advance the legal needs of so many different businesses.
Got it. Yeah, the one thing I've noticed, lawyers are very collegial, like refer work around all the time, which is interesting to me. I mean, just because I would think you're competitive, right? But there's a lot of referrals. I mean, people live by referrals, right? A lot of law firms live by that.
Right. Well, and I think the thing is, if there's something where someone is going to do a great job, then there's no question you want your clients to get the best services provided, whether it's legal or marketing or any other service that they could need.
Even within like a certain specialty, if someone does more pre-lit versus litigation, right? You hand the baton off to someone that's going to take it to litigation, right? Anyways, I just find it interesting, as I've talked to a lot of you guys, that the collaboration is pretty good, which is interesting.
I think it also depends on the community that you're in. Minnesota has a very collegial legal environment. So, I mean, I'm lucky that I work with colleagues who do a lot of the types of legal work that a potential client might need. So someone comes to me and they say, I want to, I'm sort of doing the succession planning. I want to sell my business in the next 5 years. What do I do now to get there? There's someone at our firm who I love, who's brilliant, who I can refer to that potential business owner. But if for some reason I didn't have someone that I'm working with like that, then I'd be able to find someone in our community. So luckily, a lot of the needs that clients are coming to me for, I know people at our firm who really do great work that I can send them to.
Good, excellent. And since we're a technology business, I want to ask you about that technology, how you guys use it, what do you feel about it, how do you leverage it in your practice?
Yeah, well, I think you have technology on two fronts, right? You have technology in the sort of networking, communicating with the public about your skills, right? And I feel like for me, that's primarily LinkedIn. And I think that's a great tool for attorneys to sort of be thought leaders in legal spaces, but also in non-legal spaces to bring in business. And also, I think to develop a community around their ideas and to join communities that are already out there. In terms of legal tech, I think that there's no question that I think many, if not most, law firms are adopting more and more of that legal technology. Everything from AI that can help you write, the corporate folks write contracts, to document management systems, and obviously our physical library is gone, right? And now everything is, at least we use Westlaw. So I feel like that's definitely the newer generation of attorneys are growing up on that. That's what they want. Some of the older attorneys, I feel like it's a little bit slower, but it is exciting to think about all the different technology that's available to attorneys, and I'm definitely open to learning more about it, as the time goes on.
Good to hear. All right, so just parting words, what do you want people to know about your firm, and what's the best way to connect with you?
You bet. The best way to connect with me is definitely on LinkedIn. You can just look up my name, Leora Maccabee, and connect with me in that way, and I'd love to do that. I think the best thing is if people who are listening to this are young lawyers or people who are just sort of considering joining the legal profession, I'd be happy to talk to you about sort of my path and how I got there, and sort of how I've juggled legal practice and now partner work with a family. I have 3 kids and a great husband. And then I'd say if there are people who have cases in Minnesota, even if you just need local counsel, that Maslon is a great place to look at to help you with that. Definitely an award-winning firm in this space, and a lot of great lawyers, regardless of what sort of the legal issue that your company might be facing.
Excellent. Good. Well, thank you very much. It's been fun. And for everybody, this is Leora Maccabee from the great Maccabee Drive in Minneapolis. I can't stop thinking about that, the Maccabee games and all that stuff.
I know, right?
And
I really appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is sponsored by EmotionTrac, and EmotionTrac is a legal tech company, and we help litigators do case prep, prepare for mediation with our platform that lets you tell your story and get insights from a virtual audience, leveraging an AI platform.
That's awesome.
Thank you very much, Leora.
Thank you.